The stage lights dim slightly as the next contestant is announced. From the wings, a young Filipino singer steps into view, his posture respectful and slightly tentative, as though he's still absorbing the reality of standing on the America's Got Talent stage. He's dressed simply, perhaps a neatly pressed button-up shirt and dark trousers, not flashy, but presentable, reflecting humility rather than showmanship. The audience offers polite applause, curious but unaware of what's about to unfold. He walks toward the center mark on the stage, glancing briefly at the enormous crowd and the towering panel of judges. The vastness of the space contrasts with the quiet determination in his eyes. The iconic AGT logo shines behind him in vibrant blues and reds, yet he seems grounded, not overwhelmed. Simon Cowell leans forward slightly, studying the contestant with his signature measuring gaze. Heidi Klum is the first to speak, offering a warm smile. "Hello. What's your name?" His voice, gentle but steady, carries a slight accent as he introduces himself and mentions he's from the Philippines. Sofia Vergara follows up, asking what brought him to the show. He shares a heartfelt but concise answer, maybe about growing up in a small town, singing at family gatherings, or supporting his parents and siblings back home. There's no dramatization, only sincerity. Simon asks, "And what are you hoping to achieve if this goes well?" He pauses briefly, then replies that he hopes to make his family proud, to represent his country, and to show the world what passion and music can do. His response is not rehearsed, it feels honest and grounded. The camera cuts to the audience quietly nodding, some smiling, others watching with interest. There's no spectacle yet, just a quiet, earnest presence, building anticipation for what comes next. A hush settles over the auditorium as the judges give him the nod to begin. The stage lights shift into a soft, warm glow, framing him in gentle amber tones. The backing track for "The Power of Love" begins with a subtle instrumental introduction, light piano notes and distant strings. The first few chords echo through the space, and even the audience members in the upper balconies lean forward, curious. He closes his eyes for a brief second, drawing in a slow, steady breath. His hands rest calmly at his sides, though there's a slight tremor that betrays his nerves. The audience, sensing his vulnerability, grows even quieter. Simon watches intently, arms folded, eyes narrowed in concentration. Then, with a deliberate inhale, the first note leaves his lips. His voice is soft at the start, controlled, smooth, and rich with a soulful warmth that immediately contrasts with his humble demeanor moments earlier. The clarity of his tone catches several audience members off guard. You can see eyebrows lift, heads tilt, and a murmur of surprise ripples subtly through the crowd. The camera pans to Sophia, who smiles and whispers something to Howie. Heidi's expression brightens, and Simon's face changes almost imperceptibly, a faint flicker of intrigue replacing his usual guarded expression. As he finishes the first line, his voice grows slightly in strength, still precise but now infused with emotion that feels deeply personal. The acoustics of the theater seem to cradle every note, allowing his vocals to float elegantly across the room. No one claps yet, no interruptions, no noise, just silent appreciation building into awe. By the time he reaches the early transition in the melody, the atmosphere has transformed. The audience is no longer just watching a performance, they're being drawn into it, one quiet breath at a time. As the song moves into its second verse and begins to build, something shifts, not just in his voice, but in the energy of the entire room. The initial nerves seem to fall away, replaced by a quiet confidence born from emotion rather than ego. His posture straightens, and his breathing deepens, allowing him to support each note with greater power and control. The arrangement swells beneath him, strings rising, the piano becoming more pronounced, and his vocals respond in perfect harmony. He doesn't force the sound, instead, he lets the emotion shape it. Every phrase feels intentional, every lyric delivered as though it carries a memory or unspoken prayer. His eyes glisten slightly, though he keeps his focus forward, anchored in the music. A woman in the second row presses a hand to her chest. In another section of the audience, a teenage girl can be seen wiping at her eyes. The camera lingers on a family of Filipino Americans waving a small flag in quiet pride. The performance isn't just impressive, it's connecting. On the judges' panel, reactions deepen. Sophia leans in with her chin resting on her hands, visibly touched. Heidi whispers, "Wow," under her breath. Howie, typically animated, watches in respectful silence, eyebrows lifted in admiration. Simon's expression is the most telling. He uncrosses his arms, his gaze softer now, his attention fully locked in. There's a stillness in him that only appears when he witnesses something rare, something honest. As the pre-chorus transitions toward the powerful lift of the song, his voice rises with it, smooth, resonant, and emotionally charged. The audience no longer sees a contestant simply singing a classic ballad, they're witnessing someone pour their heart into each syllable. A tension forms in the air, silent but electrifying, as everyone senses the emotional crescendo is about to arrive. The music swells into the chorus, and with it, his voice rises to meet the emotional peak of the song. He steps slightly forward, not in showmanship, but in instinct, carrying the weight of the lyrics with a conviction that feels deeply lived. The notes that once floated gently now expand through the theater with power and soul, yet never lose their clarity. As he reaches the first big high note, his tone doesn't waver. It rings out strong, warm, and vibrant, as though it's filling every corner of the room. The lighting subtly intensifies, casting a soft glow on his face and shoulders, making the moment feel almost cinematic. The audience reacts in small but telling ways, a ripple of gasps, a hand raised involuntarily to a mouth, a collective breath held. He doesn't oversing or add unnecessary flourishes. Instead, he leans into the vulnerability of the song, allowing the natural emotion to guide him. The passion in his delivery intensifies with each phrase. His eyes glisten, and a slight tremor of feeling is audible in the tail end of his vibrato, but it's not weakness. It's truth. The camera cuts to Simon. His eyes, usually sharp and appraising, soften further. His lips part slightly, and he blinks a bit more slowly than usual. He tries to maintain his composure, but something breaks through his guard. There's no dramatic sob, just a fleeting expression that reveals the crack, controlled emotion rising unexpectedly. The audience begins to react physically. Some rise to their feet prematurely, unable to wait for the finale. Others clasp hands, overwhelmed. Even the tech crew at the back watches the monitors with rapt attention. As the bridge approaches, the instrumental drops just enough for his voice to feel almost naked in the air. And in that exposed, intimate moment, the connection becomes undeniable, not performance, but impact. The final stretch of the song arrives like a wave cresting. He takes one last breath before the climactic high note, a note that demands both control and courage. As the bridge swells, he delivers it with breathtaking precision. His voice doesn't just hit the note, it fills it with emotion so pure that the room seems to pause around him. The crowd rises, first in small clusters, then collectively, as though everyone has silently agreed that sitting would be disrespectful to the moment. The golden stage lights flare behind him, casting his silhouette in a halo-like glow. The final sustained phrase fades into stillness, and for a second, there is no sound at all, only awe. Then the applause erupts like thunder. People cheer, clap, and whistle, some shouting, "Bravo," or his name. A few audience members wipe their eyes. Others stand with hands pressed together in amazement, as though witnessing something sacred. On the judges' panel, Sophia dabs at the corner of her eye, smiling through her emotion. Heidi claps with both hands high above the desk, shaking her head in disbelief. Howie turns toward Simon, half laughing in shock, as if to say, "Did you expect that?" But it's Simon who draws the most attention. He blinks slowly, eyes visibly wet. He clears his throat and attempts to speak, but the words don't come immediately. The camera catches him subtly brushing at the corner of his eye, not quite hiding it fast enough. The audience reacts with even louder applause, sensing the rarity of the moment. There's a pause before any formal feedback begins. The singer stands on stage, overwhelmed, tears glistening but his posture respectful and composed. When the judges finally speak, their praise is earnest, almost reverent, no clichés, no generic comments. Whether it's Simon or another judge, the golden buzzer is inevitable. When it's pressed, gold confetti bursts from above, raining down in shimmering cascades. He clasps his hands over his mouth in disbelief, falling to his knees or looking upward in gratitude, the music swelling again to match the triumph. In that moment, his journey transcends competition, it becomes a story people will replay, share, and remember.